Hey everyone, Daryl here. I am actually cutting my workout short. I usually do 70 minutes on this treadmill, and I'm cutting it short today because I have to talk about something. I have to do a video, and well, let's go do that right now. Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Monday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, if you just saw the pretext, the beginning of the video here, I'm actually doing this video Sunday morning, and more than likely I am going to download it Monday morning. Okay, this is how this idea all started. I was actually, as you saw, I was on the treadmill, and I started thinking about my longer videos. I've been doing a lot of shorter videos because I started to get less views, and the views just kept going down on YouTube, and I decided to try short videos, and those have been working great, but I don't want to get away from my bread and butter, you know, the usual like 10-minute videos that I've been doing for years. And I started to think about stuff that I might want to talk about that I might have neglected talking about, and all of a sudden something came on my mind, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I really need to talk about this. All right, what I'm going to talk about in this video is honesty or dishonesty or downright lying. Me and my thoughts on honesty, how I look at myself, gauge myself honesty-wise, and what I've seen on X, okay, like right-wing Trump supporters on X, and what I've seen them saying specifically about the Trump parade versus the No Kings protests. Okay, I'm going to use that as an example because I saw some glaring dishonest remarks, and I want to talk about that. And the second thing I want to talk about is I started to think about Donald Trump, and I've seen the reviews of the parade and reviews of the No Kings protests. And as far as I could see, even on both sides, left and right, his parade has gotten less than stellar reviews and turnout. And the protests, there was no violence. If there was any violence, the only violence that came up were Trump supporters, MAGA. More than likely, the incident in Minnesota, I'm sorry, and an incident with a driver that ran into a crowd. Both more than likely MAGA. So the protests turned out very well. And I started to think, looking at Donald Trump and his personality, what do you think he's going to do now? How do you think he's going to approach this? Millions of Americans came out against him, calling him a wannabe king and authoritarian. You know, millions of Americans marched against him, and it's hard. You can't deny that. You know, so how is he going to handle that? Looking at his personality, I'll talk about that in a second. First thing I want to talk about, let me just talk about this quick. Me and honesty, okay? I've been clean and sober since October 23rd of 2006. 18 years and coming up on 8 months. On the 23rd, it'll be 8 months. 18 years and 8 months clean and sober. When I was using, I lied. I was a lying, manipulating SOB. That was just part of my addiction. I mean, I lied constantly. I lied about everything. I lied to the point where I didn't even know the truth. I lied to myself. I lied to people around me. I lied about things that I didn't even need to lie about. You know, I would say, well, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when I didn't. You know, just ridiculous stuff. I mean, my life was just a total lie. Since then, I've become a little obsessive compulsive. There's things in my life. I'm happy. I'm happy every day. I never believed I could be this happy and fulfilled. I mean, I'm not rich. Right now, I don't have a significant other, a girlfriend, but I'm happy every day. And I don't want that to change. And I get kind of superstitious about everything I'm doing now. I want to keep doing, you know, so that nothing changes, you know, because I enjoy my life right now. And there's kind of an obsessive compulsive component to it. My working out, which I work out 6-8 hours a day. My art, when I'm not working out, I'm painting. My YouTube videos, and just about everything else I do. There's a lot of, you know, my honesty. My family has said that since I've been clean and sober, this is their quote, I'm honest to a fault. These days, I feel if I lie, bad things are going to happen. Like I said, there's an obsessive compulsive component to it. I cannot look somebody in the eye. I can't sit here and do a video and lie and look into the camera and lie because I feel like my life is going to go to hell. You know, there's a superstitious, obsessive, compulsive component to it. And I can't do it. You know, I'll feel like these videos, There's been times when I know if I said something that wasn't true, I would get more views and I'd make more money. There's times when I thought, if I said something that people want to hear, something that was clickbaitish, like that, I know I'd get more views and I'd make more money. But here's the thing. Every day, like, I'm proud of what I produce. I mean, it takes time to do these videos, especially the spoken word and the street rhymes. It's the most work I've ever done making videos. And when I finish, I'm actually proud of what I produce. And I look forward to getting up in the morning and making another video. And I look forward to looking at my video the day I did before, kind of like like one of my paintings, and then I look at the comments and the likes and all that stuff. And it's something that I produced that I'm proud of. If I was dishonest, that feeling I would no longer have that feeling. It would take away the whole reason I do these videos. So I don't understand how people can lie straight out, especially in these videos, or just in general. I'm not saying I have tons of faults, but I'm honestly I'm honest to a fault these days. Like I said, my family, there's been times where, like, I'll admit to a cop. If a cop pulled me over and he asked me, were you speeding? I'd say yeah. And if he asked me if were you doing 64, I'd say no, I was doing 70. I can't. There's just something inside me. It feels almost like I'd be relapsing. I can't lie. I can't look somebody in the face and lie these days. I'm sure. I'm sure I've got plenty of faults, and I'm a MFer. I'm sure, but I'm very honest. Okay, so I start looking. And when I do videos, I research all I can. I'd never say anything in my videos that I know not to be true. Just as an example, when I did the video about the explosions and the ice, what I thought was an ice raid, I said in the video, I said, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was an ice raid. And if you look at my community page, there was actually a thing on Facebook from the Bristol police, and they say that it was a drug raid for Hispanic people who were arrested for a bunch of things for drugs. How the flashbang concussion grenades worked into this, I don't know. It all sounds a little suspicious to me, especially how Bristol police went out of their way to put this on Facebook. It's still very suspicious to me, but I had to come out and say, look, it was not what I thought it was. That video actually got 21,000 views on TikTok, and I had to come out and say, look, I was wrong. And I'll do that. I can't lie on here. And I do research. Like this morning, I wanted to see how the parade and the protests compared. So I went to Newsmax, because I saw that on X. A lot of Trump supporters said that Newsmax gave the best coverage, and Fox. So I actually went to Newsmax because I was curious to see how the parade turned out, how the attendance was, how was the excitement level. And it wasn't, a lot of times, to me, it looked like they were trying not to show how few people were there, or the low-level energy that was the soldiers seemed to. Nobody there seemed to be really excited about the parade, and I saw a lot of empty seats, even on Newsmax, even on Fox. I wanted an honest opinion, but I see Trump supporters. The big ones on X, Cat Turd, Eagleman. Gorka, all these big name Trump supporters, and they're saying, oh, how the protests failed, and they have one picture from God knows where. They say, it's only 40 protesters showed out here, and it was a total flop and failure. And from my own look at this, it's just not true. It's not true. So all of a sudden it hits me. Not only is Donald Trump, we've seen him lie straight out about stuff like this, about his inauguration crowd and all that, straight out lies that we all know are lies. Not only is he doing it now, but his supporters are just straight out lying, and they know they're lying, and the other Trump supporters know they're lying. And it's so bizarre to me. Don't they realize, that by lying, they're admitting that they don't have a solid argument? By lying, they're presenting a false context to their whole life. So there's just comment after comment. it's not just talking up the parade, saying that it was such a, amazing success. And maybe on some levels it was. I don't want to put it down, but I wanted an honest look at how the majority of the country saw the parade and the attendees, and the majority of the country saw the protests and the people that attended it, and I saw people dancing at the protest and music playing, and Mark Ruffalo from the Avengers smiling and have a great old time. And it looked like a huge, we're talking about millions of people, 1 million people on the Boston Commons. It looked like 1 million people in Philadelphia. The numbers are going to be off the charts, and there was no violence that I could see except for 2 MAGA Trump supporters. Like I said, the shooter probably, and I say that believing that I'm telling the truth, and the driver. So my point is I see that not only is Donald Trump dishonest, but now his supporters are just flat out lying, and they know they're lying and being dishonest. And how could they look at themselves in the mirror in the morning? Like I said, if I did a video here and I was dishonest, it would take away the whole enjoyment, the whole reason I do these videos. I'm sure I could do a video where I said something I knew wasn't true, and it would get spectacular ratings. That's all I'd have to do is think of something to be dishonest about. But I couldn't do that. It would nullify the whole reason I do these videos. Enough said. Okay, Donald Trump. So I started thinking about him and his personality. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, I talk about empathy a lot. And, this is something I've kind of learned and taken up in recovery. Trying to put myself, walking a mile in somebody else's moccasins, as Native Americans say. What would I do, if I were him? And he's not, is he going to, seeing that millions of people are unhappy with what he's doing, and how his parade turned out, how the protests turned out. Is he the kind of person that would alter his character, his day-to-day life? No, absolutely not. I'm just saying from my personal experiences here, I'm 59 years on this earth, his kind of personality is the kind of personality that will double down on, whatever people don't like that he's doing, he's going to do it more, and he's going to try to stifle them. That's what I believe is going to happen in the months to come. I don't think it'll come out right away, because there's been a lot of pushback. But I think in some kind of underhanded ways, he's going to try to take away the people's right to disagree with him. Because, I just think his kind of arrogant, narcissistic personality can't handle, this huge level of bad poll numbers, whatever you want to call it. What just happened at these protests, millions of Americans saying that they're not unhappy with him. And I think he'll double down. And I think he will, I don't think he's the kind of personality that would say, geez, maybe I should try something different. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm the kind of guy that a lot of times I assume I'm wrong. I want to hear other people's opinion. If you see my comments, I do this all the time. People will tell me, you're breathing too hard. I can't hear you in the Street Rhymes videos. And I'm thankful for that. A lot of times I do things that are wrong, and I need feedback on that. You can't get better unless you make mistakes and change your day-to-day operations. And Donald Trump just can't do that. Those are my thoughts for today. Please, please, please talk to me in the comments and let me know what you think about this. Honesty and dishonesty, especially with Trump. And if you look at X, I hate X, but the reason I keep it is for this channel, so I can see what's going on the right, and I could talk about it, and I could measure honestly what's going on. Looking at, I don't want to be stuck in an echo chamber. So let me know what you think about this honesty and Trump in the future. Have a good Monday.